Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Eco at Africa, a European and Pan-African environmental magazine. I'm Edith Kimani, and my colleague in Lagos and I will be presenting exciting stories on nature and the environment.
Yes, indeed. I'm Neota Egbe from Sokoto, Nigeria. This show is brought to you by Deutsche Welle, Channels Television and KTN. Now here's what we have on the show for you today. Eco at Africa visits with a farmer in Egypt. His products mean your perfume lasts longer, and they've also helped turn small perfume companies into global conglomerate. We accompany Eco Pirates who are scoring Germany's beaches. The school kids are collecting plastic to help science and the environment. And then an African climate expert who attended the Marrakech Climate Summit tells us what Africa needs to do to fight climate change.
We begin the show right here in Kenya, where the bees are perhaps the most important pollinator for nature. They provide benefits to the agricultural industry and pollination services to wild plants and flowers. The wealth of flowering plants that blanket the forest and the prairies owe much of their existence to the visits of bees. And bees produce honey, an opportunity to ensure a better livelihood for people in this country as well. So a good pollination system is part of a healthy ecosystem and vice versa.
Bees have always been Kholde Kalume's passion. He says he keeps his African wild bees outside his village because they're more aggressive than the European kind. This hive contains about 70,000 bees. Kalume controls them as best he can with the use of smoke.
Before, I was doing locally using a fire, bush fire, and then we got training from Kwetu Training Center, so that I've acquired that knowledge to handle the bees and how to manage the bees.
And he's been successful.
You're lucky, you're lucky.
In the last couple of years, his harvest has quintupled. Kholde Kalume keeps the hives in a nearby forest. Since mangroves bloom several times a year here, the bees will never lack nourishment. Kalume and 19 other beekeepers recently received some training from instructor Emmanuel Kalama at the Kwetu Center near Mombasa, about 100 kilometers away from the region of Watamu, where the beekeepers live. Kalama succeeded in convincing most members of the community to switch to a different form of beekeeping. He's been keeping bees for more than 10 years. Sometimes his former trainees stop by for some further advice.
We also teach them how to do beekeeping so that they conserve the ecosystems. And also the bees are very important because they help people in food production, because they do at least 80% of the pollination.
That was enough to convince Kholde Kalume to take up beekeeping. He's also started to use byproducts like wax to fabricate candles. To keep bees for honey is a lot of work, he says, but worthwhile.
My dream was to learn more about bees, but most of the people, they demoralize you because they say if you learn about floriculture and beekeeping, it is not marketable in Kenya.
A liter of honey sells for the equivalent of 10 euros. Then Kalume invests the profits in products such as candles and lotion.
So you get more in bee because you have different products. You can have the 18,000 plus the candle that will have it from the wax, and maybe lotion.
Some customers have been skeptical about these new products. They fear the wax could attract bees. So now, Kholde Kalume has to find a surefire way to convince his honey customers to buy his other products too.
And now to doing your bit. In this weekly segment, we show you reports on great environmental ideas from Europe and Africa. Now this time, we're looking at a solar dryer. It uses green energy to dehydrate excess fruit quickly and cheaply. And this Zimbabwean explains how his contribution to a cleaner environment works.
Did you know that you can use the sun to preserve your fruit and vegetables? Almost a third of the world's food ends up in the garbage, like produce that hasn't been sold at a local market. The problem is, preserving food is not so easy and uses a lot of energy. That's why ecologist Newton Spicer invented the Zimbabwean solar dryer. It costs $600 US and is powered by the sun. Without adding to the electricity bill, it can dry fruit, vegetables, herbs, and even meat, preserving surplus produce for future use. In this way, the solar dryer could contribute to food security and allow farmers to supply fruit, even when it's out of season.
Do you like that? If you are also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
That's not just a good idea for the environment, but for business too. Now, Neota, you're going to introduce us to someone who has been looking at climate change in Africa for some time now.
Yes, and he could use some good ideas too. Every country here is feeling the effects of climate change, each in a different way. Some areas are getting too much rain, causing erosion and flooding, and others are suffering from falling water levels in their rivers. Early this year, 30 million people in Eastern and Southern Africa experienced massive drought. What can be done to address this situation? We asked an expert who attended the Climate Change Summit in Morocco.
Climate change has destroyed the beauty of the African continent. The flora and the fauna itself also rely on climatic conditions. And if the climatic conditions keep changing, it's very understandable that some species have to move, to migrate from a region to another. And others are seeing their population declining because of those changing in the climatic conditions. Food insecurity, that's a huge problem for the continent. We're on a continent where 60–80% of the population rely on agriculture, and with the seasons that are becoming more and more unpredictable, we are noticing food insecurity happening in many parts of Africa. I am convinced that the Western countries have got and have a strong responsibility in ensuring that the current climate chaos is stopped. The most critical help which is needed is not finance. It's the end of the fossil fuel development and end of extractivism, because this is what is making the current crisis worse. The second support that I said, which should be increased, is this technology transfer, which will now enable our communities to tap into the resources that we've got in terms of renewables. There are different levels of responsibilities. There is what Western countries can do and should do to fix this problem. There is what the government also in our continent should do, as well as communities and ordinary citizens, because it's not only a problem of governmental, it's also a problem of, it's an issue that affects every citizen. So communities, ordinary citizens as well, have got their role to play.
Bright and sunny in Gandhi village in Sokoto state in northern Nigeria. Around me you see school children, they are watching what I'm doing. But that's not what we're here to do exactly. We're here to take a look at Germany, where our reporter met some plastic pirates, as they are called, that these environmental buccaneers aren't dangerous. They are not after gold. Instead, they hunt for plastic waste. They are school children, like the ones around me, who are cleaning rivers and beaches at the North Sea coast. And while they are doing that, they collect data for scientific studies.
This is what they've collected in just a few hours. The plastic pirates have made a very good haul today. It's all part of the normal curriculum for the high school kids from the Lornsenschule in Schleswig in northern Germany. Today, gathering waste at the Mühlenbach stream and the Schlei estuary is on the schedule. Their task is to measure plastic pollution in and around flowing waters.
We're so close to the water, and I didn't think there would be much waste. But it's a lot more than you'd expect.
This unusual class combines geography and biology. The students identify nearby plants and measure the flow velocity of the stream. Each piece of plastic waste and its exact position must be documented carefully. The data the plastic pirates are collecting will be used in a research project. Their teacher, Antje Kleine, is the captain of the plastic pirates.
We want them to go out into the world and to understand their own position in it. That only works if we go outdoors and give them responsibility for their actions in the place where they live.
The plastic samples go to this research lab in Kiel. It works together with schools. The plastic from Schleswig is being investigated by marine biologists Dennis Brennecke and Alice Nauendorf. They're hoping to obtain more than 150 data sets by the time their study is over.
Even though the coastal area here in Germany isn't very large, we do have a lot of rivers, and that's where waste from the interior can reach the North Sea or the Baltic.
Yes, and once the plastic is in the sea, many animals, like turtles or birds, eat it because they think it's food. They can't digest it, and many of them die because of it.
For both scientists, the problem is not just large pieces of plastic, but what's known as microplastic. That refers to plastic particles that are smaller than 5 millimeters. Much of it can only be identified with the help of a microscope. It's ingested by fish and mussels, and through the food chain, it can get into humans as well. Microplastic typically gets into the water unnoticed.
This is microplastic that can be found in a single product, 200 milliliters of a skin peeling. If you use it at home, it goes down the drain and it's transported to the purification plant. But most sewage plants don't have the filters to get rid of it. So most microplastic gets into the environment, in the rivers or the sea.
This digital map of Germany displays the data from all the participating plastic pirates. The students publish their exact position and upload pictures of the waste they've found. It's an important set of data for the researchers in Kiel. Katrin Knickmeyer supervises the project together with colleagues in Chile. She says that, of course, the problem of plastic waste is not limited to Germany.
The plastic and other waste gets into the sea by way of rivers. And the world's oceans are connected to each other by way of what's called the global ocean conveyor belt. So you can say that something discarded here can appear at a totally different location.
To keep that from happening, the plastic pirates collect and dispose of the waste. They want their waters to be clean, and they have some ideas about what they and others can do.
First of all, you could think about not taking plastic bags when you go shopping, or reuse the same bag a few times. And just make sure you don't produce so much waste to begin with.
The pirates have enough booty for today, and they hope to keep it out of their waters in future, too.
Egyptian jasmine is one of the world's most expensive fragrances. Famous French or American perfume makers use the strong, fruity aroma in their creations. The essence from the blossoms provide a long-lasting scent on the skin in nearly every fragrance mixture. And that's just one reason why Egyptian perfume producers take so much trouble to harvest and process the delicate flowers.
When the sun sets over the Nile Delta, millions upon millions of blossoms open up and give off their heady, intensely sweet aroma. Jasmine, the king of perfumes. Because nocturnal moths instead of bees pollinate the flowers, harvesting takes place at night from 2 a.m. till just after dawn. It's back-breaking work.
We pick the flowers every year, always for 6 months, 7 days a week, all season long.
The sweet fragrance suffuses the Nile Delta. Around 10 or so jasmine plantations provide jobs to thousands of pickers, men and women, at harvest time. The more skillful and concentrated they are, the more petals they can put on the scales in the morning. 5 kilos per night shift are nothing unusual. After the harvest, everything has to go fast on the Fakhri farms near the city of Tanta. If the flowers aren't processed immediately, their precious aroma dissipates. At 9:30 in the morning, the pickers' strenuous work is done. The women return home in small groups, walking through one of the most fertile stretches of land in the Middle East. Everywhere in the region there are small collection points where intermediaries buy up the jasmine and then deliver it to the scent factories. For half the year, everything revolves around the flower harvest. Counting all the pickers and their families, the jasmine harvest here in the Nile Delta provides a living for about 50,000 people. Hussein Fakhri and his wife Sharifa now produce 80 different plant essences, from A for acacia to Y for yarrow. Their products are organic and they sell their top-quality aromatics to the most demanding perfume labels. Good instincts are essential to this business. The Fakhris take care of their workers. In a small school, the pickers' children receive free tuition because Sharifa says the quality in state schools is abysmal. No other plant is as delicate as jasmine. After the tiny blossoms are weighed, they have to be processed immediately. The oils are washed out with hexane, an organic solvent, in huge steel barrels. The solution is filtered and distilled to produce a waxy mass called concrete. The more fragrant compounds are extracted from that into ethanol, which evaporates, leaving the final product known as absolute.
This material is what I'm going to be taking in here. And I will proceed by evaporating the ethanol, which I will collect over here for further use. And at the bottom, I'm going to be collecting the absolute. This would be a bottle of 5 kilo absolute, which corresponds to about 3.5 tons of jasmine blossoms.
The market value of those 5 kilos of absolute is about 22,000 euros. Soon the next night shift will begin. The workers will collect grams, kilos and tons of blossoms and filter out the heart of the jasmine. A lot of sweat for a whiff of expensive perfume.
Edith, now you know why your perfumes cost so much.
Well, Neota, a precious substance comes at a price. And that's something that illegal amber miners have discovered and are using to their advantage. Amber may be the world's oldest gemstone. It's still used in jewelry today, and as a result, illegal amber mining activity has emerged, especially in northern European Baltic region. In Ukraine, for example, officials say that digging amber with shovels or washing it with water pumps causes irreparable environmental damage. But the illegal miners are still thriving. Environmentalists, such as the one you're about to watch, are trying to end the mining for good.
It looks like a lunar landscape. Dmitry Leonchuk has come here to survey the damage. He's an environmental activist and belongs to the pro-European Automaidan movement. These craters are the result of amber mining. The company responsible was supposed to have reforested the land, but that clearly hasn't happened. Instead, new craters have been formed.
It was probably illegal amber diggers who took advantage of the opportunity or bribed the police who guard the area.
The activist meets a group of men nearby in the village of Klesev in northwestern Ukraine. Eventually, they agree to show him the fruits of their mining activities. Possession of illegally mined amber can lead to prosecution in Ukraine. This small heap of stones could fetch $1,000 on the black market. The men say the gemstone is especially sought after by Chinese buyers. The illegal mining has been a financial boon for the village, where the money's been used to build houses. The men responsible say they're doing the local area a favor. They've been able to build a playground, and there are plans to improve the roads too. Vasil maintains the government is aware of and even cashes in on illegal mining.
Illegal amber mining is good business for the guys at the top too. The bureaucrats don't have to invest anything and still end up better off.
He's referring to bribes. The miners say police officers and security officials turn a blind eye to the illegal activities in exchange for cash payments. Dmitry Leonchuk wants to change that. He says huge areas are being destroyed by illegal mining.
We're talking about thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people who are mining amber in the forest. It's totally chaotic. There's no system in place.
There's evidence to back up the claim. This aerial footage, shot by the group of activists, gives an indication of the extent of the damage. The illegal miners are using pumps to wash the amber toward the surface. They plumb to a depth of 20 meters. The fracking is a huge earner. Dmitry Leonchuk and the other activists managed to film the illegal mining with their cell phones. The footage shows miners, almost resembling worker ants, laboring hard. It's said that installing a pump costs around $600 in bribes. That ensures the authorities turn a blind eye. This is what the landscape looks like after the illegal miners have left. The areas around the mine have become barren, destroyed. Dmitry Leonchuk has proposed an alternative.
Mining could be legalized, and we could organize it in such a way that everyone can profit. A cooperative with 10 to 15 residents would have enough work for 2 to 3 years. After they've mined the area, they should then have to refill the holes, plant trees, and reforest the area.
Sales of the final product fetch billions on the global market, especially in Europe and China. Dmitry Leonchuk can understand why the many impoverished people from this region feel entitled to a piece of the pie. He envisions a new system, one in which the environment is respected, and money generated from amber mining would remain in the area and not end up in the hands of corrupt officials.
So there's plenty of people fighting for the environment in all parts of Africa and also in Europe. Those are all the reports we had for you today. Bye-bye from Kenya.
And goodbye from Sokoto in Nigeria. If you want to know more about our show, check out our social media pages. We'll be back next week at the same time. Until then, thank you for joining us on our Environment Magazine show.